Three Pennsylvania officers are charged with the fatal shooting of an 8-year-old girl at a football game. You might remember this story. Fanta Bility was shot in the crossfire of the officers and some teens. The bullets injured several others, including Fanta's sister. Officer Devon Smith, Dolan, and Brian Devaney are charged with 1 count of voluntary manslaughter, 1 count of involuntary manslaughter, and 10 counts of reckless endangerment. The teenagers were charged with murder, but those charges were dropped when it was discovered that the bullet that killed Fanta came from an officer's weapon. Let's go back to our panel, Reese, Dr. Greg Carr, and Faraji Muhammad. Faraji, I want to start. Okay, don't have Faraji. Let me know when he's back. I want to go to you, Reese. I remember when this happened, and this sounds very similar to the story out of Los Angeles where the cops were going into, I think, a Burlington coat factory. A young girl was in the dressing room, and they fire at the guy, and then she's in the dressing room and ends up getting hit. You know, this is where officers have to use proper discretion when they're firing their weapons when there are other people who are around.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I understand that there was a gunfight. If I understand correctly, there was a gunfight that initiated the officers coming to the scene. However, it's not like you're just in the Guns of Navarone here having a shootout like you're in the Magnificent Seven. You are in an actual community that has children around and other people. And so they have a duty to protect the entire community and not just necessarily engage with the people who are firing off these rounds. So it's incredibly tragic. I'm glad to see that there's some accountability, but there just needs to be a sense of humanity and the people who are serving these communities and a duty of care that just isn't there. And we saw the same thing with the prior story too, about Cedric and just the lack of duty of care for a person who was going through a mental episode. I mean, the people weren't responding to a crime; they're responding to a situation where a teenager had an episode, and he ends up, not just dead, but, in my opinion, brutally murdered. I mean, the length of time that he was in a position was longer than even what we saw with George Floyd. And so it's hard to say reform systems when we know that's not necessarily happening. And we also know that it's the lack of humanity, as Dr. Carl says, the statement, no humans involved, is what's really animating a lot of these folks in these cases.
This is, again, beyond sad, Greg, but this is also why, look, I get it when you're in those situations, but officers must take care and simply just can't be firing away and they have innocent bystanders. And here's the deal. Remember, they charged the teenagers for it. So clearly you have laws to, look, their errant gunfire kills this young girl. Now we know it's the cops. They should be charged.
They should. And as always, Roland, you are taking the moral position. And we are talking about a situation where there is no morality. Reese just said it. I mean, NHI, no humans involved. And that is a phrase that Sylvia Wynter used and talks about, the scholar Sylvia Wynter. But she took it literally from the LAPD, who used that phrase, NHI, to talk about when they would get calls in Black and brown communities in Los Angeles. Oh, what? Oh, NHI, no humans involved. And in both those cases, there were no human beings involved. That child, it's heartbreaking to see her there with that little crown and then the young man in the back and see these children. And then you realize that these killers, and that's what they are, they're killers, they're paterrollers, they're hunters. Their first move, like they're in an episode of Chicago PD or Law and Order, is to empty their clip. There are no repercussions. And in the case, as Reese just said, of Kansas with Mark Bennett, that white nationalist who was just recently reelected, I think 2020 he was reelected, there are no repercussions. You can kill who you want. Now, the one thing that ties those two cases together is, the defense lawyer for Smith, Dolan, and Devaney is arguing that, this had to do with violent criminals. So they can't put it on the 18-year-old who they gave 32 to 64 months for his actions. They can't put it on the juvenile guy. And yeah, they shouldn't have been shooting. Of course they shouldn't have been shooting. But when there are no humans involved, the script is to try to find one of these non-humans to blame. And it worked in Kansas so far because they say that he continued to struggle and he resisted. So therefore, we're within the law to show restraint. The bottom line is this. they're going to keep killing us until we stop them. And the price has to be a life for a life. It does no good to march and say Black Lives Matter. You need to crucify the 2 United States senators from Kansas, Roger Marshall and Jerry Moran. They should be excoriated on the floor of the United States Senate. No matter what they're debating, someone should come in and say, you represent a lawless state where nobody's life matters. And until we start putting the kind of pressure on these white people in terms of a language they understand, they're going to kill us with impunity.
Back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way. Honored to be on a show that you own. A Black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Like, wow, Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig?